Don't forget to like and subscribe.
We follow the story of a young priest who really doesn't know exactly what he believes in and is invited to do the exorcism course in Rome. So he goes from America to Rome, and whilst he's in the exorcism course, he meets a very interesting priest with very
Ladies and gentlemen, brace yourselves for a thrilling journey into the realm of creativity as we introduce our guest. A masterful storyteller armed with a pencil and no eraser. His stories are so gripping that he doesn't make mistakes, just adds plot twists. His journey through the realms of film and television is nothing short of a spectacular odyssey that has left audiences around the globe on the edge of their seats. Now picture this. He bursts into the limelight with a supernatural thriller that not only gave us chills, but also introduced us to his unparalleled storytelling finesse. Cue for the gasps, The Right, a film that took the world by storm and showcased Anthony Hopkins in a spine-tingling role. But that's just the beginning. From the dark allure of Queen of the Damned, to the beauty of The Book Thief, and the gripping mysteries of Backtrack, where he didn't just wield the pencil, but also took command of the director's chair. Now hang on to your popcorn because we're just scratching the surface. Brace yourself for a cinematic feast with titles like The Long Green Shores, Three Little Words, Possession, Till Human Voices Wake Us, The Dangerous Lives of Altar Boys, The Chronicles of Narnia, Voyage of the Dawn, and The Pope's Exorcist. This isn't just a filmography, it's a dazzling collection of masterpieces. Now, before he conquered Hollywood, he had audiences in stitches as a comedy writer and performer on Australia television. The transition to LA in '94 marked the beginning of an extraordinary journey. But let's fast forward to today. He takes us on an enthralling journey with the Netflix thriller series Messiah, where he's not just a creative force, but an executive producer and creator. The series did premiere January 1st, 2020. Now, without any further ado, please join us in welcoming a man whose storytelling prowess has taken us on a fantastical journey, delved into the supernatural, and challenged the very essence of human nature. Please join me in welcoming Michael Petroni. Michael, thank you so much for your time and welcome.
Hi, Chris. Thank you. Thank you for that lovely and well-researched introduction.
As I said to you earlier, I'm such a fan of your work. And, I want to dive into this with you. Your journey from Australia television to Hollywood. Now, it is remarkable. Can you share with us a pivotal moment or turning point in your career that shaped your decision to pursue screenwriting?
Yeah, definitely. It was the day I probably just couldn't be in front of the camera anymore, because I was once in front of the camera doing comedy, writing and performing for a show here, two shows here in Australia. One was called The Big Gig, which sounds funny when an Australian says that. It was kind of like Australia's version of Saturday Night Live. So I did some work on that as a staff writer and then also as a performer. And then I went on to then do a show called Das Kapital, which was with a very popular comedy trio here called the Doug Anthony All-Stars. And I was a continuing guest star on the show, which was good. And then I ended up writing for it. But at that point, I started to feel more and more uncomfortable in front of the camera. And that experience was really challenging for me because, it was recording in front of a live audience, but it was the idea of, back in those days anyway, you would record it and then record it again and record it again. And it was the sense that the audience were only then sounding more like canned laughter, that I just got over the thrill of that and kind of really realized that my greatest skill was in writing. So that was a pivotal decision that I would just concentrate on that behind the camera stuff.
Now, when we talk about your performancing in front of the camera, what drove you to being in front of the camera in the first place? Why the entertainment industry?
Well, I actually studied psychology. I did a double degree in psychology and English literature. And I, one evening, went along to a drama class and fell in love with the whole thing. So it was kind of just very simple. I just realized, hey, I don't think I'm doing the thing I really love. So I changed.
Now, if you could pick a career path that wasn't where you currently are, if you said, hey, you know what, I'm never going to do the entertainment industry, where do you think Michael would have ended up? Do you think he would have been a full-time psychologist?
Yeah, probably. I think I would have been a therapist. Now I just need therapy.
With some of your projects, it's pretty interesting that that was it.
And all that experience with Hollywood definitely drives someone into therapy.
I want to ask you, do you remember the first feature script that you had optioned and was picked up?
Yes, it was called A Course in Miracles, which then strangely got that wasn't a script. It was it was a pitch I sold to Caravan Pictures, Roger Birnbaum, Caravan Pictures. It was my very first pitch in Hollywood. So I walked in and pitched this idea, and he bought it in the room. And I went out of the meeting and called my very new manager and said, he's bought my pitch in the room. And he said, that can't be the case. You've made a mistake. And I'm like, no, I'm pretty sure. It's like, you don't know what you're talking about. But sure enough, I'd sold the pitch in the room. So I just thought that it was so easy. I got off to a very good start, but then the thing about getting off to a good start is you're not kind of hardened by, you know, tough experiences. So the tough experiences, when they come, kind of hit you by surprise or take you by surprise.
When you talk about these tough experiences, can you share with us a little bit about what you mean? You had this a great success with your first one. What was the struggle like for you getting the next one off the ground?
It was fine. I had a really good run, and it's the idea of dealing with studios and then just navigating what a studio wants and a studio's needs. And when you come in as something of you've got this idea of yourself as an artist, and people are sort of tell you how much they love your writing. That kind of then rubs up against, well, you come hard up against a studio executive who says, I don't want that, or we need to change that. And they suggest ideas that you just know aren't great for the story. And so it's then navigating that. And then also, there's plenty of scripts, some of which you actually mentioned in your introduction, that just lie dormant. So that's also the frustration. I think some of the things I'm most proud of, I'm probably sitting on some executive shelf. So um, that's the hard bit. It's not all bad though, obviously. That is the tough bit.
When you talk about some of these projects that may be sitting on some executive's desk, is there a project that has been, I'll say, submitted or optioned that you said, man, I really wish that one got made, and why hasn't it been made yet, or why did it get kicked back?
Yeah, there's a great project. It's probably would feel a bit, it'd need updating now, but it was at Warner Brothers, and it was called Revelation. And it was a thriller set in the Vatican,
Hmm.
but it involved a New York cop who gets involved in an assassination attempt on New York's cardinal, Catholic cardinal. And then it sort of unveils this sort of web of intrigue. I really love that. And Warner Brothers were very hot on it for a long time. And it's had a lot of different stars and great directors attached. But it just was one of those projects that just kept wobbling and not making it. And then um, Da Vinci Code came along, and so about 2 years after, it was kind of it was all written and sort of, like I said, in different versions of being made, and then Da Vinci Code kind of just knocked it off its kilter altogether. There are other attempts actually for it to come back, but it's just one of those projects that you love and didn't get up.
When we talk about these projects that you love, is there a specific genre that you love to just kind of dabble in?
No, to be honest, I just like a good story. I think I do have a certain ease with thrillers and particularly supernatural thrillers. But I'm just like a good story. I mean, if there was a supernatural thriller with a story that was, I wouldn't really want to do it.
Mhm.
So I think it's the story first always for me.
So how do you approach those challenges of creating a gripping screenplay in those thriller horror genres?
I think it's always interesting situation or novel situation and interesting character or a character that you can invest in. I think they're the two most important things when deciding on any story, really.
That would
But
almost
particularly
be
genre, sorry, but particularly in genre, I think you've got to always have a new approach because genre audiences tend to have seen everything in the genre. That's what makes them fans of the genre. So to really give them what they want, I think you've always got to be coming up with a new version the of the idea or the genre.
so you'd almost say that those would be key inspirations behind the story almost.
Yeah.
So when we talk about these genres, and your career goes from dark fantasy and we go to the Chronicles of Narnia to the Book Thief, how do you navigate that creative process when working on projects with such varied thematic elements?
Well, I mean, the common element in those ones you mentioned is their adaptations, right? So they're book adaptations. And so an adaptation is an adaptation, and it doesn't really matter what book you're adapting. Um, I was I did a whole adaptation of Patrick O'Brien's book for the sequel to Master and Commander, which also is another script of mine that I wish got up that didn't. Um, so you're gonna and I'll just bring that up because it's also an adaptation, and the challenge is adapting the book to the screen, which sounds much easier than it actually is. Generally, that's the process that takes the time, is to get the story, to kind of get the voice of the original storyteller, and then to somehow create your own version of it. The first draft of any adaptation, I feel like, is it's an homage generally to the original writing or writer. And then you've got to go, okay, now I've got to make this mine. So then you've got to say, well, what really works and what doesn't work, and then you have to be more critical. But that first draft is always it's a laying out of everything, and it's kind of tough to do. And I brought up Patrick O'Brien in particular because I don't know if you know the Master and Commander books, but he cuts you no breaks. You are thrust into, the 18th century nautical world of the war on the seas between France and Britain and Spain. And it's the nautical terminology was just like so overwhelming for me. I think I made 3 attempts at starting that screenplay before I actually succeeded in like getting past the first page, because every time I went to write it, I was like, I still don't know enough. I still don't know. I don't have the confidence to write this yet, because it was a real undertaking, which I thoroughly enjoyed. It was one of the most satisfying things I wrote, which unfortunately is also on some executives' shelf right now.
When we talk about these projects, and as you said, it was about the third attempt there before it got up and running, what do you do to look for to get through that writer's block? What's your muse? Is it great music? Is it going for a walk? What is it that Michael does to push forward?
Long walks. Always a long walk will generally budge something. Sometimes it's a lot of long walks, but yeah, I like to walk. It's a great way. I always say I'm going to take my thoughts for a walk, because that's what I feel like I'm doing.
I love
Um,
that. Now,
that and I do have some key colleagues and friends that are always good to just bat around an idea with, and they'll just maybe make an observation or a suggestion, and I go, right, and that will also help.
So when you had all of these scripts done and when you started doing Backtrack, which you sat into the director's chair upon and written, did you learn anything from the director's perspective that helps you write differently now for the actors?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, differently for the actors, differently for the story, most definitely. I think that any indulgences in writing, I can spot a lot easier after the experience of directing, because you write something, and then when you go to direct, you go, I really didn't need that scene, and it's a 2 minute decision, and that scene took forever to write, or and ends up just in the waste bin or on the cutting room floor almost immediately, because it becomes very evident in when you watch the cut. You go, that scene just doesn't belong, or it belongs somewhere else, or it doesn't belong at all. So I think that was one thing it improved my writing.
Now, what was the inspiration behind sitting in the director's chair for that particular project?
Well, I directed Till Human Voices Wake Us years before, and I always had a yearning to go back to directing again. So my writing career was just so full on. I just never really found the time, and so I kind of created time. I told my reps that I was going to take that year out to do this. So it's a project. Also, it's just something I wrote, and in some ways, I think I've even mentioned this in other interviews. Um, it was funnily like the twin set to Till Human Voices Wake Us. It's just the scarier version of a vaguely similar idea. The
Mhm.
idea of a man going back to his hometown and facing the ghosts of his past, which is what Human Voices is. Backtrack is that, just with the scary really turned up.
And I'd like to ask you, when we're looking at some of the uh, projects that you create, and your work often explores themes of spirituality, identity, and human nature, how do you balance storytelling that is both thought-provoking and entertaining?
Well, I think I always hold in the very front of my mind that entertainment is our job. So if you're not entertaining, you're not doing the job that you're really being paid to, or everyone expects you to do. So that is always my first thought. Is this entertaining? Do I want to see this scene? If I was an audience, would I be engaged by this scene? So, because you can get trapped into, if you're taking a story that's like a biography, or something that's real, or something that's an adaptation from a book where it's an important scene in the book, but it doesn't seem to really fit when it comes to screenplay. They're the only decision the only thought that really helps you make that decision is it entertaining. So that's always the most important thing for me.
And Michael, what's something that excites you the most about the evolving landscape of content creation?
Look, I think it's shifting. I think we've had an incredible golden era of TV or streaming TV series. I think that it's changing again. I have a feeling that, and that's what's sort of interesting about the whole industry and the whole format that we work in. I think that there's going to be a bit of a swing back to interesting films, and I mean, which there have been. There's always interesting films, but I do think there's going to be a swing back to that, which is always exciting. I think that, and so to me, the idea of an ongoing series was, in some ways, the modern novel in my mind. I felt like it's like writing a modern day novel, where you've got the luxury of really exploring character and character backstory, and you can just go on and back, and it only builds out the character more and engages your audience, or has your audience invest with that character more and more. So that's the wonderful thing about ongoing TV series. Whereas film is like haiku compared to that. So I feel like there's a bit of a swing back to that at the moment. I've dabbled in that in my time, and I also like that idea too. I like the idea of crystallizing a thought or a premise into 110 or 120 pages, because that becomes challenging after you've written a lot of TV too.
And Michael, I'd like to ask you something a little bit more personal. What's something that scares you?
The movie The Exorcist absolutely still scares me. I can't actually probably still watch it by myself.
After everything that you've created,
Yeah, no, it still scares me.
And Michael, if we asked some of your friends and said, what's something that people tend to misunderstand about you the most, what do you think they would say?
They assume I'm smarter than I am.
And Michael, I have time for one last question for you today on Coffee with Chris. And I really appreciate your time being here with me. What makes Michael smile?
Oh, my children, my family, every day. I do it all for them.
I love it. I love that answer. And Michael, where can people learn more about you?
Honestly, I don't have any kind of self-promotional tools of any sort. Just watch my work, follow IMDb. I've got a bunch of projects in development, so just keep your eye out.
Amazing. And as I said, so it was my last question for you today. I really appreciate your time and being here. Everyone out there, remember to smile to inspire and have yourselves a fantastic day.
Thank you, Chris.